Aloha, I'm Kala'i Miller, and on this episode of Home is Here, we're stepping back in history. And we begin with your history. How much do you know about your ancestry? Now, whether you know a little or a lot, there's a place full of resources to help you trace your family roots for free. The only thing you might need is one of these.
Everybody at some point in their life wants to know where did they come from and who their parents were, more about themselves really. It's also the next generation who's eventually going to ask you, what do you know about your parents and your grandparents, and will you be able to answer?
Here at Nanakuli Public Library, it's been my passion to provide these genealogy resource classes to our community. Knowing where you come from is very culturally important. My family moved to Nanakuli when the homestead first opened. We moved in the dead of night because my grandpa's youngest sister had Hansen's disease. And although they had the medicine, they were still sending people to Kalaupapa. So they kind of just packed up and moved because this was way out in the boonies way back when. And I think what really makes me proud is the resiliency of this community. And so that's what inspired me to start doing these programs. I think the most important part of doing your genealogy research is really preparing yourself. So not just preparing yourself emotionally, but preparing yourself for the time and commitment that it's going to take to do that, and preparing your ohana for your genealogy research, because you may be finding out things that were a secret or that was a hard point in your family's life. The loss of a child, a divorce, an adoption. You may be digging up something that's difficult for them, that may be triggering. A lot of times with genealogy research, the first step is always to talk to the oldest members of your family first, because they're going to have the first-hand account and information that may not be on documents that you're researching. It's really the details that become important when you're doing your research. So the dates, the place names, the maiden names, the middle names. Some common mistakes that I've seen people make is skipping a generation and assuming that somebody is their kupuna, their ancestor. I've seen people go down a rabbit hole and spend a lot of time researching someone that's not their ancestor. So I always suggest that they start with themselves and they work their way backwards. And I suggest that they keep their ancestral chart with them while they're researching place of birth, date of birth, place of death and date of death, and marriage dates are usually the main things that are on your ancestral chart. Mainly, you use those dates to confirm that the documents that you're looking at are for your kupuna. Because if it's in the completely wrong place or the completely wrong year, it could just be somebody with a similar name or the same name. Hitting a brick wall is also a really common thing that happens here. What I mean by a brick wall is they've reached a point in their genealogy research where they don't know where else to look for resources. So the wonderful thing about our library system is our main branch, the Hawaii State Library, has a lot of old documents. They have a bunch of resources that are available to you as a member of the public.
One of the most popular things that people come here to do genealogy with is our Department of Health microfilm. It's birth, marriage, and death records from 1909 to around 1920 for the certificate images. And there's an index that goes from 1909 to 1949. So another really popular resource is delayed birth records for people who didn't get a birth certificate at the time of their birth. So they had to get one later on in their life. So they had to get testimony from people like neighbors or family members or friends to say that they are who they say they are. So it's always interesting when you read the testimonies. They'll explain a little bit about the background of where this person's family came from, everything they knew about the family, all the kids that they had, if they moved, where they were from. So you get a lot of information. Yeah, it's really exciting. We have a large reference collection of yearbooks, all from donations. If you want a photo of your relative in high school, you can look that up. Some of the oldest ones in there, they go back to the 1920s. We keep a list of all the yearbooks we have at our reference desk because our yearbook collection is based on donations. So we've got a lot of holes, but it's pretty large. Yeah, when you start working in the library, then you just have to look up all your friends and your coworkers in our yearbook collection. So it's pretty fun. Depending on how deep you're researching, like if you really can't find anything, we do have city directories and phone books that go really far back into the 1800s. And not only can you find where this person was living at the time, you can see what their occupation was. Or if you're gonna go follow them throughout the years, you can see if they moved around a lot and where they lived. But also you can just see the cool, like, old phone numbers that were only 5 digits and all the old ads that were in this telephone book. So that's fun too. We also have cemetery indexes for Oahu, Maui, Molokai, and also one for Kauai. Those were made by volunteers going out to the cemeteries, writing down everything they saw on the tombstones, dates, names, the inscription on the tombstone. So sometimes there's some pretty touching information in there.
Kuka Hakalau put it best. She came and talked to some teenagers here. She proposed it as, now that you know your inherited mana, what's the accumulative mana that you add to that? So what are you doing today that will be part of the inherited mana for future generations? And so that's a beautiful thing for me, for people who did genealogy research, is they find resilience in finding out about their family. They find about trials, about struggles that their ohana have been through that they don't really talk about, and how they've overcome those trials and struggles and made a better space and place for them as a person.
Mahalo for joining us. It is because of the generosity of viewers like you that we are able to share these stories. If you would like to support our mission to advance learning and discovery, please visit pbshawaii.org and click on the Donate Now button. For Home is Here, I'm Kala'i Miller. Ahui ho.